What are the characteristics of mollusks or phylum Mollusca? First, the invertebrates. Second, the soft and segmented bodies. Third, bilateral symmetry. 4. Has a mantle. 5. Has a foot.
Invertebrates do not have skeleton. Some examples of these are spiders, flies, and caterpillars. Vertebrates are often larger and have more complex bodies than invertebrates. However, there are many more invertebrates than vertebrates.
The unsegmented animals with soft bodies are known as platyhelminths. Platyhelminths platy, meaning flat, and helminth, meaning worm, are a phylum of relatively simple bilaterian, unsegmented, soft-bodied invertebrates. For example, tapeworm, flukes, planarians, etc.
A condition in which the right and left sides of an item, e.g., a shape or an animal, are mirror images of one another. For example, since the right side of the human body generally mirrors the left side, humans are bilaterally symmetric.
The mantle is an important part of the body of a mollusk. It forms the outer wall of the mollusk's body. The mantle encloses the mollusk's visceral mass, which is its internal organs, including the heart, stomach, intestines, and gonads. The mantle is muscular, and many species have modified it too, used for siphoning water for feeding and propulsion.
The foot is muscular lower part of the body which is in contact with the substrate. Mollusks usually have a shell, although some do not. Mollusks also have an extension of the body wall called the mantle.
So this is the characteristics of phylum Mollusca. The invertebrates, the soft and segmented bodies, the bilateral symmetry, has a mantle, and has a foot.
So now, I'm discussing the under different classes of phylum Mollusca. Mollusca can be segregated into 7 classes: the Aplacophora, Monoplacophora, Polyplacophora, Bivalvia, Gastrophoda, Cephalopoda, and Scaphoda. So, what is Aplacophora? Aplacophoras are small, like cylindrical, worm-like, and usually less than 5 cm long, but can range from 1 mm to 30 cm. Like other mollusks, it has no outer shell, but the epidermis secretes calcareous spicules or scales which are embedded in dorsal mantle. So, there are 2 included groups of Aplacophora, the Caudophovita and the Solenogastris. So, the Caudophovita. The Caudophovita is a small class within the phylum Mollusca, also known as Chytodermomorpha. The class is often combined with Solenogastris and termed Aplacophora, but some studies have cast doubt in the monophyly of this group. So, let's proceed the Solenogastris. Solenogastris is often referred to as Neominio-Marpha. Common name, the Solenogasters are one class of small, worm-like, shell-less mollusks or Aplacophora, the other class being the Caudophovita, Chytodermomorpha. The second class of phylum Mollusca, the Monoplacophora. Monoplacophora are small and limit-like, having a single, cup-like shell. Some organs are kidneys, heart, and gills are repeatedly serially, giving rise to the now falsified hypothesis that they may have a close relationship with segment organisms such as annelids and arthropods. So let's see the Monoplacophora. Monoplacophora are the dorsal, ventral, anterior lip, mouth, velum, post-oral tentacles, foot, pilial groove, ctenidia, anus, and shell. So, the third class of phylum Mollusca is the Polyplacophora. The Polyplacophora, or the other term is chitons, differ from all other mollusks in several anatomical particulars. The most striking is that the shells, as in the gastropods and the bivalves. These valves are embedded in a tooth, muscular girdle, which holds them in place while allowing considerable freedom of movement. The shells of some chitons are covered by girdle more extensively than those in others and in one species. So the exterior of Polyplacophora are girdle, calcareous spines, sutural tuft, spiculous fringe, scales, granules, anterior valve, radially ribbed, median valves, lateral area, radially nodulous, bifurcating lines, dorsal area, pleural tract, central area, macro, and posterior valve. In the interior, there are anterior valve, insertion plate teeth, sutural limini, median valve, slit, macro, sinus, and posterior valve.
So, let's talk about class Bivalvia. And here's the root bi, and we know bi refers to two. While valvia actually does not refer to shells, and it refers to valves which organisms have in order to suck in water and suck out water or push out water. And what these bivalves do is they're filter feeders. They're not going out and trying to hunt things, but instead they're taking in water. They're gonna pull out an algae phytoplankton. So, plankton, they're gonna pull out bacteria that's in the water and eat it, and then all the extra stuff they just blow out of them, they just push that out of their body. So, these guys are filter feeders. So, let's identify some of the bivalves that are on this first screen. First, we've already seen this image, but this is the clam. We've also already looked mussels that actually might have one T, I'm not sure. And then the oyster. And the last one is the seashell. Usually everyone's identify it as seashells, but there was an animal that was part of this seashell, but these are the scallops. The next class we'll talk about is class Gastropoda. I like the name of this one because gastro refers to the stomach, and then we have seen poda, this refers to the foot. Here's why they are called the stomach foot. The word gastropod comes from the Greek and means stomach foot, a name that owes its existence to the unusual anatomy of snails. While they don't have feet like ours exactly, snails have a broad, flat foot used for support and for forward movement. This foot runs along the underside of the animal, essentially along its belly. So, organisms in class Gastropod have one show. So, bivalves have two shows. Gastropod have one show, except the slugs. And the slugs are the ones that obviously are lacking shell. But if you look at this slug, you notice that part of the skin is a little different. And this is the mantle. This is what would have created a shell. If it had a shell, this is not a naked snail. Snail look very, very different. Snail grow into their shell, like literally they are part of their shell. And that's what this picture is of here. You may have heard a conch shell before. Well, here's the conch animal right here. The actual snail that lives inside of these organisms. So, anyway, those are in gastropoda, they have one shell. The next class is class cephalopoda. So, cephalu referring to head and poda referring to foot. So, these are the head foots. This actually makes a lot of sense because these including things like squids and octopus, where their foot is all their tentacles and what we call head because what it looks like. That actually the visceral mass inside of there, that's where all the organs are found, digestive organs, respiratory organs, and reproductive organs. They've all found in what we look at it and we call it a head. But that's just really just the body of the organisms, but that's just where the cephalopoda comes from. I see a lot of cool organisms found in cephalopoda, and what's really cool about this is very few organisms can change their colors, and one of the organisms that can are these guys. They have these specialized cells inside of their skin called chromatophores, and chroma is referring to color, so they have specialized cells. Scapopoda are the distinct group of mollusks commonly known as the tusk shells, because their shells are conical and slightly curved to the dorsal side, making the shells look like tiny tusks. The scientific name of Scapopoda means shovelfoot, a term that refers to the head of the animal, which lacks eyes and is used for the burrowing in marine mud and sediments. The most distinctive feature of scapopod is that the tubular shell is open at both ends, not just one end, as in most mollusks. Scapopods live their adult lives buried in sand or mud, with their head and pointed downwards. Only the narrow posterior end of the shell sticks up into the seawater for water exchange and waste expulsion. Gills have been lost in the scapopods, so the mantle tissue not only produces the shell, but also serves the functions of gills in obtaining oxygen from seawater. The mantle is fused into a tube that surrounds the body of the animal, but it is open at both ends. Water is circulated around the mantle's cavity by the actions of numerous cilia. When the dissolved oxygen runs low, the water is ejected through the top end of the shell by contraction of the foot.